Hey folks, welcome back to Fantastic Daily, where I make the creepy and unexplained entertaining for all of you. And today, guys, I didn't know what I should make a video about because there really hasn't been a lot going on. So, I'm sorry, what's that? The Sun Vanished is back. Oh, I know the Sun Vanished is back, folks. I know the Sun Vanished was back. I was there live streaming when the Sun Vanished came back. I've had so many people tell me about this. I'm super pumped that all of you enjoy this as much as I do. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Apparently, there is now almost 300,000 people who are watching this Twitter stream on like an hourly basis. And since the Sun Vanished disappeared, people were very worried that he was not coming back, and I held a candle up hoping that he was coming back. I tried to pump everybody up that I couldn't believe that this was the end of it, and sure enough, on Saturday night, the Sun Vanished came back, and since then there have been 8 tweets. All right, I'm recording this on Monday evening. There have been 8 tweets, and I'm going to go through each one because there's a surprisingly large amount of info, maybe more than we've ever received before in a single batch of stuff that happened over the course of a couple hours. I am calling this Story Arc 2. I don't know if the guy who made the Sun Vanished is calling it that, but this feels like Act 2 or like Arc 2 of like the massive Sun Vanished story, that now he is like away from his house and he is out. We're not sure exactly where, but apparently out in like the world somewhere. So let's dive in to exactly what happened Saturday night. So like I said, I was live streaming, and right around 10:43 Eastern Standard Time, we got this tweet where he says, "I'm finally back. There is so much that I have to catch you all up on. You won't believe what I've seen." And we were all just like waiting there in the stream to see if he was going to like keep on talking. And there was like this like weird, awkward pause between this. And we're like, are you going to tell us what's happened, or are you going to like string us on for more hours? What's going on? But then just like a couple minutes later, he followed up with this. "After the last video I tweeted, Daniel and I drove a ways into the boonies to stay away from where all the activity is in town. He brought camping gear, so we've stayed in a tent out in the woods for the last couple weeks." Now, that reinforces a theory that I had. In my mind, the only theory that made sense if the Sun Vanished was ever coming back, which was to say that he didn't have access. He was just like out in the middle of nowhere, didn't have access to a cell phone. I'm assuming didn't have access to a lot of power, and they had to like stay under the radar. So if they're camping out in the woods, that kind of makes sense. And then we got this. "It wasn't long before we were out of range from any cell towers, but I made sure to still document anything significant. On our way out of town, we noticed what looked to be a star in the sky, but almost as soon as I pulled my phone out, the star disappeared." Okay, so folks, this is like the most important tweet he's maybe ever delivered, because we have been wondering, like, what's the deal here? Like, what is going on? Is the sun gone? Is the sun covered? And if the sun is covered, like, where are the rest of the stars? Like, there are no stars anywhere. And you'd think, this is a story, right? This is all fiction. So, and at some point you have to imagine like somebody is behind this, and I assume they don't have a ridiculous amount of money. So if you shoot the outside sky, like, you better not get any stars in the shot, otherwise it's not going to make any sense. Not only does he shoot the sky and there's no stars in the sky, but there's a single star that happens to go out. And knowing what I know about video stuff, this is like not super easy to do, because this footage is really, really, really crappy. It's easy to do like visual effects when your footage is like really high quality, but when it's all grainy and strange, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So I'm still like racking my mind as to how this The quality of this could be happening at such a small level, and that's where we get back to this idea of like maybe this is an advertisement for some bigger thing, but so far there is no bigger thing, right? This isn't part of The Purge. This isn't part of the upcoming Suspiria. Who knows what this could be for, but this was a very cool moment where we got to see into the sky and saw that it was empty. There are no stars, but there was one single star that went out. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that these stars are disappearing one by one, or if they're blinking in and out. I think the strongest theory so far is that the Earth is not where it should be. That the Earth has been moved to another part of the galaxy or to another dimension where there aren't stars around. So why would there be a single star there that blinked out of existence? The only theory that I've heard that I kind of like is that star could have been another planet or a moon or something else in this other part of the galaxy that has been blinked out of this dimension and put somewhere else, the same way that the Earth was moved from our traditional solar system into another place. Who knows if we're right on this, and this doesn't seem like the kind of story where it's going to give us a lot of answers, but I thought this moment was mind-blowingly cool because it kind of just gives you the tiniest peek into the world of what's going on here. And it's just so intriguing because I have endless questions. So then he follows up with more information. Once we got far enough away where we couldn't see the city lights anymore, we set up camp. It was actually sort of peaceful for a bit, and it gave Daniel and I plenty of time to catch up. But unfortunately, there was some rising conflict between us. So there's a couple things here. One is this confirms that this world still has power. That it's not like an apocalyptic scenario where there's no power anymore. The power plants are still working. There is light in the cities. Now, is the light coming from buildings or is it coming from some spaceship stuff? We don't have an answer to that. But you can even see in the previous video that there's light in the horizon. Which means that right, in some, I assume, nearby town or city, there is a light source there. So it's interesting to know that is happening because we've theorized about that for a while, and this kind of confirms it. Now, with regards to Daniel, a lot of you thought that Daniel had injured TheSunVanished in that car at the very last shot of the previous story arc. And, I think we're still supposed to wonder whether or not Daniel is trustworthy. And in fact, TheSunVanished goes in more detail about that right after this. He says, Daniel isn't a fan of me broadcasting my situation to the internet. He thinks it's dangerous. My philosophy is that I have a chance to reach other people who might be in the same situation as I am. But suffice to say, he hasn't been in a hurry to get back to reception. So that kind of underlines exactly what we've kind of assumed here, is that TheSunVanished is documenting this for his own reasons of trying to I don't know whether build a bigger coalition or find some safety in this, and that Daniel's doing the thing that people do where they're he's looking out for number one. So I don't know. I would love to hear what you guys think about a lot of this stuff. Like I said, guys, there's a lot going on here, a lot more than usual, and so I want to hear everybody's opinion because we have all collectively built up some really good theories about this, so let me know what you think about this and everything else. And then this was one of the cooler moments. He says, at this point, we had been arguing for days on what to do next until our decision was made for us. A storm rolled in, and we saw this. And this video seems to show another one of these floating spacecraft things. Now, previously before, when I showed you guys the original photo of this spacecraft that happened, it happened to be floating, I thought, down a street. The perspective, my point in that video previously was that I think that thing was about the size of a truck or something. It wasn't that big. Because I thought it was floating in between these two houses going down the middle of a street. This kind of implies that it's much, much bigger. So this is either the same style of ship, much larger, because in the distance, it seems pretty big. Or I was just wrong and that ship originally was much, much bigger than I had assumed. There's not a lot to give us some scale here because it's difficult. Everything is in silhouette, so I'm not exactly sure how big that craft is, but I'm prepared to admit that I might have been wrong about the size of that craft. It might be a lot larger. But again, I mean, this kind of is confirming that this is some kind of alien invasion. So, I mean, this is not like a zombie apocalypse. This is not, some kind of like military takeover. Like, this is something unknown. We don't know what that thing is, and it's just kind of like floating very slowly in the sky. But I don't know. I might have been wrong about the size. Looking at this video, it makes me think I was wrong about the size. So then he goes on to say, so with the activity getting closer to our campsite, I finally convinced Danyan for us to pack up and drive towards the closest cell tower. So I think that this is the cell tower that he is transmitting this entire batch of story, and that he had this one moment to transmit all of this stuff, and then that's why that there's only one more tweet after this, because they left that cell tower. I think that's what's going on. So I don't know if we're going to expect more and more like batches of tweets instead of like a single one here and a single one there, that we might get these like downloads of like big information while he's going from cell tower to cell tower. And he ends this with a kind of ominous warning about Danyan. He says, "Do I trust Danyan? Yes. Do I trust his judgment? I'm not so sure." That is exactly what we have all been thinking, that from the very beginning, there was no real reason to like doubt Danyan's motives, but his behavior always felt like, I don't know, like a ticking time bomb, kind of like who's the kind of guy that shows up at your house kind of unannounced, honking and shooting a gun in the air, right? Like that is the kind of person that Danyan is. And in a lot of these kind of like apocalyptic style stories, a lot of the tension comes from the fact that sometimes the survivors, like the people that we're supposed to be rooting for, they are teamed up with people that are going to get them in trouble. And Danyan might be that character. Danyan might be that guy that is going to put TSV in some bad situations. And then we're all going to have to watch, how that goes down and what TSV has to do to avoid getting hurt. And your guess is as good as mine. I'm just, guys, I am so glad this is back. Right? There was so much talk. I mean, people were leaving the Discord, that investigative Discord that exists where people like trade theories and like work out all the details. Like people were leaving that Discord because they thought this was over. And I am so glad that it is not over. I guess I want to say I called it, even though I don't want to toot my own horn too much because I was getting nervous too. But I'm glad it's back. I know thousands of you are glad it's back. So you can count on Fantastic Daily to cover this in the days, weeks, months going forward, because like we are here. We found it first. Remember, Fantastic Daily was the first place to talk about this. I started talking about this when there were 16 followers. And the reason I found out about it was because of folks like you who tipped me off. So thank you folks for tipping me off to all this cool stuff that you find. And thank you so much for watching tonight. Let's roll that outro. That is all for me today, folks, but remember, if you liked this video, make sure to slam that like button, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you never miss any of my videos. And don't forget, you can follow me on all the social sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pick your poison. You can say hi, or you can send me your evidence and stories. I would love to hear from you, and you can also call me on the Fantastic Daily phone line. You can leave me a comment, a question, or a story, and I will play it for the entire Fantastic Daily audience. And I will see you all tomorrow. And remember, folks, stay skeptical.